What's up everybody, I'm the Anime Mug and I want to welcome you to my brand new channel. I wanted my very first video to be about my most favorite group in the One Punch Man universe, the Mysterious Organization. I'm going to go into a lot of what we know so far about this group in this video. So, hope you enjoy. And just as a forewarning, there will be webcomic, anime, and manga spoilers. Alright, now that we got out the way, what is the organization? Or who is the organization rather? But not much is known about them so far, at least not to my liking, maybe not to yours. But there's still a lot of good gems and information that one has dropped on us about this group, little hints here and there. But we do know that they're seemingly evil, and I'll go into more of that later in the video. And they are out for themselves, and they will collect their combat data similar to Metal Knight likes to do, by any means necessary. That means that they have to go through heroes, monsters, civilians, they'll do it just for the cause of collecting their data and improving their robots. But let's start from the beginning. Now, the first time we see the organization or hear of the organization is before we even know that they exist, really. But it all begins with this small group known as the Paradise Group, and we see them donning these flamed, painted, high-tech suits, and they get defeated pretty easily wearing these suits by Speedo Sound Sonic. But the leader of the group, Hammerhead, he actually survives this encounter with Speedo Sound Sonic due to his really hard head. And he ends up running into Saitama after he escapes. And he sees Saitama and he thinks Saitama's a little weakling, so he tries to flex his muscles on him a little bit, you know, so he can like regain some of his pride after his entire team is taken out by Speedo Sound Sonic. But little does he know, Saitama is the strongest dude in the show. So Saitama handles Hammerhead pretty easily, but he destroys the suit in the process, and he ends up allowing Hammerhead to escape and just go on about his day, basically saying, don't be bad anymore, you know, just so you know, if you do, I'll come back and I'll wreck your day again. So Hammerhead runs away, but later in the chapter we end up seeing Hammerhead again, but this time we see these two strange looking robots standing over him, and we find out Hammerhead, when he stole these suits, the organization knew about it, and they actually allowed him to steal these suits, basically so they can gather data and just to see how these suits really work out in the field, and how strong they really are and how they stack up in battle. So we see these robots are basically the cleanup crew for the organization, and they're basically here to tie up any loose ends related to these failed suits. So when they find Hammerhead, they try to kill him off, but Hammerhead plays dead when they try to kill him, and the organization leaves, but Hammerhead ends up surviving anyways because of his hard head. And that's the last we hear of the organization for quite a bit of chapters, until chapter 37, when we come across a giant robot named G4, and this robot is huge, and we see him when he confronts King. Now, he confronts King basically to gather info, most likely on how strong this robot in particular of G4 is, and if it's good enough to defeat an S-Class hero, more specifically the strongest S-Class hero in King. And he claims to be a machine god that the organization made, who we know about at this point. But he wants to test out his combat AI, and he can't really do that if he catches King off guard, so he goes straight to his face and say, hey, I'm gonna kill you right now. And he challenges King to a fight, and King agrees ultimately. He tries to talk his way out of it, but he doesn't. So he just basically tells G4, hey, I'll fight you fine, but give me 10 minutes, I gotta go to the bathroom. And G4 agrees, but he gives him a condition, and he says, I'll let you go to the bathroom and I'll give you your 10 minutes, but each minute that passes after this 10, I'm going to kill an innocent civilian, just to give King more of an incentive to hurry the hell up, basically. And luckily Saitama and Genos, they come along and they see G4 confronting King, and they decide to stick around and watch, like, oh man, this is pretty cool, we get to actually see King, the strongest hero, in action, you know? So we really get to see who King really is in this moment, but that's a story for another time, because I got a pretty cool video later on about King. But this is really where we get to see how evil the organization is, with G4 really coming out here saying that I am here to kill you, an S-class hero, and later on wanting to kill innocent civilians just so he can get this data and test out his combat AI on an S-class hero by any means necessary. That we know the true nature really of the organization is that they really do want to become the most powerful group, and they're going to test out their robots regardless of who's in the way or who it is at this point. So as Saitama and Genos is watching and King is taking forever, the 10 minutes pass up, but G4, as he's just about to get ready to start killing these civilians, Genos actually jumps into the fray and starts protecting these civilians and starts taking on G4. And this is where we really get to see how good the robots made by the organization are. And it seems like G4 he's rated as a demon level, and this is just about right for what we see him as, but it seems like he was created more so for power. So I'm pretty sure the combat AI that he's testing is how strong he is, because basically Genos, and we know Genos at this point has been getting wrecked by any villain that he comes across, but he actually handles G4 pretty easily. Basically he outspeeds him, because Genos, he matches up with G4 power for power, but he takes the advantage with his speed, and G4 is too big and clunky basically to follow the movements of Genos. So Genos takes care of G4 pretty easily, and after Genos, he seemingly destroys G4, we get a surprise. And this is I was surprised when I was reading this in the manga, and that is that from the rubble of G4 after he's destroyed by Genos, out comes this smaller robot, and we really find out that this gigantic robot that we initially see confronting King was just kind of like a suit for another robot inside controlling this, and this ends up being the true form of G4, which is pretty insane. And we learn that given the time, and if the organization actually does perfect these robots, that they can be a pretty formidable opponent in the future. But this is a pretty awesome concept of a robot controlling another robot. But this robot turns out to be more powerful than the suit that we originally thought was the real G4, and it ends up putting Genos on the defensive at this point, and it forces Genos to actually backtrack a little bit. But Genos, through a lot of the battles that he's had up to this point, he's actually learned quite a bit when it comes to combat, and he ends up beating G4 again, but this time he basically makes G4 inoperable, because we see G4 just standing completely still, unable to move anymore. And it's off panel, but it's implied that Genos just dismantles G4 at this point, and he takes the parts from G4 back to Dr. Kusino, and I'll get more into that later because I got a pretty awesome theory when it comes to that. But that's the end of what we hear about. And the next time we hear the organization after this is during the Monster Association arc, when we see Narinki, who's had his son kidnapped by the Monster Association. It's revealed that he's worked with the organization to basically supply him with these battle suits that he gives to a team to go and rescue his son. But little does he know that the organization is actually in cahoots with the Monster Association, basically using them to gather more data on their combat AI and the strength of their robots. So we get introduced to this robot named G5, who destroys this team that Narinki sent. But when he actually hands them over to the Monster Association, he basically tells Gero Gero that this team can be very useful to you. So it wouldn't be smart to just kill them off, because you can make use of these battle suits that they're wearing, because these suits are tailored to each of these individuals' bodies. So it wouldn't really work out if you kill them, because you wouldn't be able to use the suits anymore unless you had another person with that same exact body type. So Gero was like, alright, that's a pretty good idea. We'll make use of them. But what I find interesting is when he initially hands them over to Gero Gero asks G5, how did you know about where our hideout is? And G5 just stays silent about this. And Gero Gero's like, alright, anyways, fair enough. But it was really interesting that he just stayed quiet. So that made me really think, like, alright, G5 is just, or the organization rather, they're just using the Monster Association as kind of a stepping stone so they can get to the real challenge, and that's the Hero Association. And what's really interesting is how the organization has programmed these robots to be very intelligent and to really think for themselves, but they're still very much so programmed to be down for this cause of what the organization is about. And we see him probing Gero Gero for questions, really subtly. He asked him, hey, are monsters allowed to kill other monsters? And Gero Gero answers him, he's like, yeah, we really don't want that. We don't want to dwindle our numbers, but at the end of the day, we're monsters, so sometimes it's inevitable. Okay, that answers that question, but it was wondering, like, why would he even ask that? And there's a little small panel, and it's easy to miss, but in the middle of it, when the Ripper, he's talking, and he's like, I smell a human, and it turns out to be Gero, and he's trying to coax him out of hiding. But we get this small panel of G5. He just says, Queen. Have no idea what that means. I don't know where, One in Murata is gonna go with it, but that's a pretty interesting bit. And after a few chapters, we actually come across G5 again, but this time he's in a hallway, and he actually passes the Ripper, and the Ripper's with Terrio. And Terrio sees G5 holding the head of Metal Knight. And basically G5 says that this head has tons of information in it, so I'm going to be studying this. Because I'm pretty sure at this point, the organization knows who Professor Boyfoy is. So they're trying to get a lot of valuable information by disassembling Metal Knight's head. And just see how Boyfoy really constructs his Metal Knight robots, because the way the organization sees it, they're just trying to improve theirs. Let's see what tech we can get out of one of Boyfoy's creations. So another few chapters pass, and at this point the S-Class heroes have infiltrated the Monster Association. And we see G5 again, but this time we see him come across Child Emperor. And Child Emperor is with Waganma. And Waganma's the son of Narinki, and he's basically trying to protect Waganma and get him to safety, but he comes across G5, and G5 destroys one of his little spy tanks, and this is when we get to see G5 in battle. And G5's, he's rated as a demon, but he's more so a very high demon, close to dragon, because he claims to be another god creation, similar to how G4 stated. But we can come to a pretty easy conclusion that G5 is kind of an upgrade over what G4 was, and he's easily able to defend himself from a lot of Child Emperor's attacks, and he's actually strong enough to force Child Emperor to actually realize that, alright, this guy is pretty damn strong, so I can't waste any more time and any more of my resources trying to take him out, because we got bigger fish to fry. Child Emperor knows that there are stronger villains out there, and he can't keep wasting resources on this guy. So he has to retreat. So G5 actually forces an S-Class hero to retreat, and so Child Emperor sends out his little underdog man, and Child Emperor is forced to upgrade Underdog Man, so he changes him into Mad Dog Underdog Cerberus. And basically Child Emperor uses this as a decoy so he can hightail it out of there. And it's a shame, because the organization obviously has made a huge upgrade to G4, and now G5, who is basically forcing a high-ranking S-Class hero to retreat. So it would be awesome to really see this battle through, and see G5 take on this Mad Dog Underdog Cerberus. But that's the last time we hear of G5 up to this point in the manga, and we don't hear about him again in the webcomic either. So I'm really interested to see what the fate of G5 is, if he's still alive, or if Child Emperor's robot was able to destroy G5. We don't know yet, but this is all the information that we even have of the organization at this point. And as you can see, their main goal is basically to become the most powerful group in the world, and they'll take out anybody. They don't care who's in their way. They're accomplishing their goal of testing out their robots, and we see that they have ulterior motives, and they do see the Hero Association as a threat, so they need to eliminate them as well. And we also see that the organization has some real similarities to Professor Boyfoy, and the fact that they like to go out into the field and test out these robots on different threats. And obviously the organization sees the Hero Association as a threat, so they're going to test it out on the heroes. And Metal Knight, or Boyfoy, he sees, first time we see him, he sees that Asteroid as a threat, so he sends out one of his Metal Knight robots to test it out and see how it stacks up against a giant asteroid, if his robots are even strong enough to take it out, test out his weaponry. So that's pretty interesting, and I really can't wait to hear more about the organization, because there is so much mystery surrounding this group, and it's the information that we've gotten so far is really cool, and seeing their creations actually do battle against different heroes it's just got me pumped, because after seeing G5 take on Child Emperor, it's like, oh snap, this group, they're starting to improve on their robots. So we know their next creation, if G5 even gets defeated, or we know someone's behind the scenes and they're gathering information as, you know, the time goes on. So we know their next robot, or the next time we see them, it's gonna be pretty epic. But I just can't wait to see them again. And with that, I'm going to end it right there, folks. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you like the organization? Do you hate the organization? Are you neither here nor there with them? But let me know. I'm excited to hear your thoughts about this, because I'm pumped to see more of them. So just make sure you share your thoughts down below. We can have a nice little discussion. And be on the lookout for my next video. I'm going to go into a theory. So everyone get your tinfoil hats on. I'm going to go into how Dr. Kusino, Professor Boyfoy, and Drive Knight are all connected to Genos in relation to the mad cyborg and the destruction of his village, and how that story all comes together. So I'm really excited to share my theory with everyone about that, and to hear everyone else's theory when it comes to this story. But that's the end of this video. It's been a long one, but I thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. Just make sure you like and subscribe to this, because I got way more great content, One Punch Man and My Hero Academia content coming down the line, and it's gonna be pretty epic. And this is the Anime Mug. I'm out.